Today in our final touch, Britain's Prince Harry and his pregnant wife Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, looked cheerful and in festive spirits as they arrived at Berlin's Madame Tussauds.
But that was probably to be expected, given that their smiles were molded in latex. The royal couple was latex masks modeled on the couple. They are the latest attraction at the Berlin Museum. Visitors had voted for Harry and Meghan as the next live wax figures performing there. That's a little
it's creepy.
Unsettling. Yes, it is. Charlotte, thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. News 3 at 5 starts right now.
And right now at 5, we're learning more about what happened at the Visions nightclub shooting in Madison over the weekend. The suspected gunman appears in court.
A Janesville teen hits and kills a person while speeding during off-campus lunch. How one school resource officer says this could be a larger problem.
And what Governor Walker is saying about the measures passed last week with the legislature in that extraordinary session.
This is News 3 at 5.
Thanks for staying with News 3. Madison police say they are still trying to figure out what led to a shooting over the weekend at a nightclub on the east side.
They have identified a man they believe fired a gun inside Visions. Our Rose Schmidt was there today as the man appeared in court for the first time, and Rose is in the newsroom with more.
That's right. Now, Madison police say they are still interviewing witnesses at this time. Detectives are still trying to figure out what caused the fight that led up to the shooting. Appearing in Dane County Court for the first time, 35-year-old Cole Foster is believed to have fired a gun inside Visions nightclub over the weekend. Madison police say 3 customers and a Visions employee were shot.
One of the victims is still in the hospital as a result of Mr. Foster's conduct.
Officers were first called to Visions just before 2 a.m. Sunday for reports of a large fight. Foster was later arrested on a tentative charge of first-degree recklessly endangering safety.
We also have reason to believe that the public needs protection. As you can tell by the conduct here, Mr. Foster gives us reason to believe he's an extremely dangerous individual.
But Foster's lawyer says there is more to the story and that he was not responsible for every shot fired.
He was actually attacked, was stabbed before anybody was shot. And we don't know who shot all of the shots that were fired in the place.
His lawyer argues that actions Foster took at Visions were in self-defense.
Mr. Foster was protecting himself from somebody who actually stabbed him on the side of the head more than once.
Judge Jason Hansen says there is evidence that does go in multiple directions.
Visions affidavit certainly sets forth some circumstances that suggest that the situation was chaotic, that Mr. Foster received some injuries himself.
The judge ordered a $150,000 cash bond after he says Foster has been involved in multiple incidents involving a firearm. But it's a weapon his lawyer says he legally is allowed to carry.
He had a license for that firearm and that he had a reason to defend himself.
After multiple incidents near Visions nightclub, the gas station next door announced it will start closing early. The Quick Trip store on East Washington Avenue is usually a 24-hour store, but it will be closing at 10 p.m. for the next 2 weeks and then at midnight after that.
Rose Schmidt in the newsroom. Rose, thanks.
All right, let's get a look at your first alert weather now. Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti on the patio where things could get nasty for the morning commute. Gary?
Yeah, I have the possibility for some light snow and light freezing rain, and a winter weather advisory has been issued for all of southern Wisconsin. Let's start out by taking a look at an alert day for tomorrow. Light snow, a little bit of freezing rain possible, and there are snow accumulations probably around an inch or less, but that's enough to lead to slippery travel conditions, especially if there is freezing rain involved. Winter weather advisories go into effect at 3 a.m. for Dane County and areas to the south and west, at 6 a.m. for areas north and east of Dane County, and they run until noon tomorrow. Snowfall amounts, like I say, probably about an inch or less, except maybe in the far northern parts of our viewing area where temperatures will be a little bit colder. You might see an inch or 2 of snow there. Visible cloud track shows clouds moving in this afternoon. You can still see the clouds are thin enough to allow you to see the snow on the ground across Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin that kept temperatures down to 0 in Black River Falls early this morning and 7 in Camp Douglas, while Madison dropped to 17. Temperatures stayed in the 20s closer to Lake Michigan. High temperatures today, lower 30s here in Madison and areas to the south. Again, that snow cover to our north and west kept temperatures mainly in the 20s. degrees. Current temperatures here in Madison, we've actually dropped to 24 degrees. Our temperatures may actually rise up a little bit later on tonight. Wind chills are in the teens. So by tomorrow morning, I'm looking for temperatures to be back into the upper 20s. We'll see some light snow develop late tonight into early tomorrow morning. That could be mixed with a little freezing rain. That'll probably end around noontime. Tomorrow's high temperature eventually topping out at 34. That's your first alert forecast.
All right, Gary, thank you. Police say the teen driver involved in a fatal Janesville crash was going more than double the speed limit.
The Parker High School student was on his way to lunch when he hit and killed another driver. Rock County reporter Adam Duxter joins us from our bureau at the Janesville Gazette with what school officers have to say today. Adam?
Well, Eric and Susan, 17-year-old Ty Matievich of Janesville faces charges of homicide by negligent use of a motor vehicle. That's a Class G felony, and if he's convicted, he can find himself in prison for up to 10 years and facing up to $25,000 in charges. According to a criminal complaint, Matievich was driving upwards of 80 miles an hour along Milton Avenue in Janesville, weaving in and out of traffic. And it's suspected he was on his way to a nearby restaurant to eat when he hit and killed Marilyn Mitchell, a 74-year-old Milton woman. Today, I spoke with a Janesville police officer who told me they're aware of the dangerous driving during the lunch period.
Sometimes those cars can be just like a bullet. Let's be honest, you know, they kill, and there has to be some maturity and responsibility when you turn over the keys to your child.
Foster says around 400 kids leave the campus of Craig High School for lunch each day, but he says the most dangerous place is actually not on the main roads, but in the parking lot of the high school, where he says he sees about an average of one crash per week. And I also spoke to a spokesperson for the school district of Janesville who says the district doesn't plan to cancel their off-campus lunch program, but does say it's a good time to talk to your teen about the rules of the road and driving safely.
Adam Duxter in Janesville. Adam, thanks.
The governor finally gives an indication of his thoughts on measures passed last week by Republican lawmakers in an extraordinary session.
Charlotte DeLeste is here with us now with more details on how the governor is approaching the bills in his final few weeks in office. Charlotte.
Well, Susan and Eric, the governor says there's been a lot of hype over these proposals, but he says the proposals don't really do much to limit the powers of the governor of Wisconsin. Democrats have urged him to veto the measures. They say it will restrict the powers of Governor-elect Tony Evers and shift more power to the Republican-controlled legislature. The governor contends that once elected, Evers will still have some of the strongest powers of any governor in America.
All those duties remain intact no matter what happens with the legislation. So for all this hype and hysteria, much of which I think is driven by fundraising for political purposes, the bottom line is there's not a fundamental shift in powers.
On a proposal to restrict early voting to 2 weeks before Election Day, he says he is a proponent of early voting as long as it's the same time frame statewide. The governor also expressed disappointment that a bill to save about 300 jobs at a Kimberly-Clark plant did not come up, which was why he called for the extraordinary session in the first place. He says he'll still do all he can in his final weeks in office to keep these jobs in the Fox Valley.
All right, Charlotte, thank you. The governor-elect and incoming Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes are starting their statewide budget listening tour today. The Building the People's Budget Tour kicking off right now in Green Bay. Each session open to the public. People will be able to share their budget priorities with the new state leadership team.
No matter whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you voted for us or not, it doesn't make any difference. We want to make sure that you have the opportunity to be part of developing, frankly, the most important policy piece that comes out of state government, and that's the state budget.
Other stops for the tour include Wausau tomorrow, next Tuesday in La Crosse, and December 19th in Milwaukee. Anyone with interest in attending a budget session can register online.
Thousands of people in the state mistakenly received a letter saying their health care benefits would be ending. The Wisconsin Department of Health Services has about 65,000 people enrolled in Wisconsin Medicare savings programs and were sent a letter saying their benefits would end on January 1st because they aren't receiving Medicare Part A. DHS said those mistakenly notified will receive another letter saying they are enrolled in their Medicare savings program and that they don't need to take any action. DHS said if the Social Security Administration or Medicare has not contacted people about the changes, then their benefits will not change.
President Trump's meeting today with Democratic leaders spiraled quickly downhill.
I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And
We
I am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you what,
disagree.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck.
Congress has until December 21st until funding for the government runs out, but the president is insisting that any spending bill has to include funding for his border wall. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell appeared to distance himself from these negotiations, but Democrats say the president's $5 billion border wall will kill any chances of a deal.
Discussions continue about how to fund the government between the president and the Democrats. We'll be dealing with other matters here in the Senate.
This temper tantrum that he seems to throw will not get him his wall, and it'll hurt a lot of people because he will cause a shutdown.
Now, a new Marist poll with NPR shows 65% of Republicans think the president should not compromise on that wall, even if it does mean a shutdown.
President Trump says there are a lot of candidates that would like to replace his current chief of staff, John Kelly, who will leave the post at the end of the year. The president's first choice, Nick Ayers, has turned the job down. The list now includes North Carolina Congressman Mark Meadows, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Office of Management and Budget Director Mick Mulvaney, Deputy Campaign Manager Dave Bossy, and Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Meadows says he is honored to be considered for the post.
I have not spoken to the president in the last 48 hours, and so there's no update. Obviously, he's got a long list of people he's evaluating.
The new chief of staff will be President Trump's third in under 2 years.
The public is getting a chance to weigh in on a proposed casino in Beloit. Here's a live look at a meeting going on right now. It is at Aldrich Middle School. The Ho-Chunk Nation Casino would be located along the interstate across from the Wisconsin Welcome Center near the Wisconsin-Illinois state line. The people behind the plan say the public has been supportive of it. We'll hear more about that tonight on News 3 at 6.
We've had below normal temperatures for a while, so it may feel like ice fishing time, but the lakes may not be quite ready. According to the DNR, there is no such thing as 100% safe ice. They do not monitor local ice conditions or the thickness of the ice because it can vary so much. DNR officials recommend at least 4 inches of ice for activities like ice fishing or other activities on foot, and ice should be at least 5 to 7 inches thick for a snowmobile or ATV and 8 to 12 inches for a car or small pickup. Fisherman Delbert Theme is extra careful out on the ice after falling in so many times over the years.
Respect the ice all the time. People that don't know what they're doing shouldn't be out here on bad ice, early ice either.
The DNR says clear ice is generally stronger than ice with snow on it or bubbles in it. We have everything you need to know about ice safety on our website at channel3000.com.
Mascot Bango and the Milwaukee Bucks are bringing some help for hungry families in our community. The franchise donating free meals to nearly 200 children who participate in after-school activities at the Goodman Community Center. This is part of a bigger hunger initiative. For every shot blocked by a Milwaukee Bucks player, Cousins subs will donate $50 to the Hunger Task Force. And over the past couple years, Cousins and the Bucks have donated more than 14,000 pounds of food and more than $50,000 to emergency food pantries. And there is more to come on News 3 at 5. French officials searching for a suspect after at least 2 people are killed while shopping at a Christmas market.
A jury recommends a sentence for a man convicted of driving through a crowd of counter-protesters. We'll tell you their recommendation.
And on Wall Street, mixed results today with the Dow falling more than 53 points. The Nasdaq adds 11. The S&P falling less than a point. We'll be right back. French police are searching for a gunman after a shooting at a Christmas market.
French police say at least 4 people are dead and up to 8 are wounded, several in critical condition after a shooting in Strasbourg. Officials say the gunman has been identified and has a criminal record, but police are still searching for him. French prosecutors say a terror investigation is underway and the suspect has been flagged as a suspected extremist.
A jury recommends a life sentence plus 419 years in prison for James Fields, the man who rammed his car into a crowd of counter-protesters at last year's white nationalist rally in Charlottesville. Prosecutors say they hope the jury's decision will begin the healing process more than a year after it happened. That crash killed 32-year-old Heather Heyer. Her mother spoke after sentencing.
In the end, the hands of justice say that he needs to be kept away from society for a while, and I'm content with that. I will always, always, always have a hole in my heart.
Now, the judge will review the jury's recommendation and hand down a final sentence in March. Fields still faces a federal trial for hate crimes. He was also found guilty of 8 other charges, including aggravated malicious wounding and hit and run.
A new report finds one of the largest data breaches in U.S. history was entirely preventable. A 14-month congressional investigation slammed credit monitoring agency Equifax for lacking preventative measures. Hackers stole the personal information of 148 million Americans last year. The 96-page report says Equifax failed to modernize its technology, failed to patch its systems when vulnerabilities were detected, and stored sensitive data on out-of-date and subpar systems. Equifax says it disagrees with many of the findings. Consumer advocates say the company should pay the price for harming consumers.
It's really only when there's actually fines attached that we're going to see the credit bureaus take our data security seriously.
The committee made several recommendations to prevent future incidents like these at Equifax, including reducing the use of Social Security numbers as personal identifiers.
Time magazine has officially named its Person of the Year, The Guardians, a group of journalists who have been targeted for their work. Jamal Khashoggi was the Washington Post contributor killed at the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul. He is the first deceased person selected for this honor. Also featured are the journalists killed at a Maryland newspaper in June. A third cover shows the CEO of a Philippines news website indicted on tax evasion charges. And the final cover features the wives of 2 Reuters journalists who were in jail for their reporting on Muslim killings in Myanmar.
Let's head out to the weather patio now. Gary has details of a winter weather advisory. Hi, Gary.
Hi, yeah, it's late tonight into tomorrow morning. That seems to be the time that we'll have to keep an eye on the potential for some slippery road conditions. We've had an alert day in the forecast for the last couple of days just because of that. Let's start out by taking a look at that alert day. Again, mainly tomorrow morning. Light snow, perhaps accumulating up to an inch, but there also could be some light freezing rain or freezing drizzle mixed in there as well. That could lead to slippery travel conditions, especially on untreated roads. Snow amounts are not going to be terribly high, generally around an inch here in the Madison area, maybe up to a couple of inches in the far northern parts of our viewing area where the freezing rain chance is a little bit less. Temperatures will be a little bit colder, so they're more likely to see some snow. But winter weather advisories are in effect for much of eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, and about the southern half of Wisconsin through about noon tomorrow. On Doppler track, the weather system where we're watching still out to the west in the Dakotas and into western Minnesota. Initially, we'll be seeing temperatures in the upper 20s. We'll be back into the middle 30s by tomorrow afternoon. By that time, most of the precipitation should be over with. Live view from the Edgewater Sky Cam in downtown Madison. Skies are mostly cloudy now. As we look at the almanac for today, the high temperature of 33 and the low 17, very close to the averages of 31 and 17. And right now, our temperature is at 24 degrees. Skies are mostly cloudy. Winds out of the east-northeast at 6 miles per hour. Wind chill 17. That temperature will probably rise a few degrees later on tonight as the clouds thicken up. Snow depth across the Midwest, again to our north and west. You can see several inches of snow from northwestern Iowa, southern Minnesota, through much of northwestern Wisconsin and into the UP of Michigan. So that's keeping temperatures colder up there. Temperatures last night generally in the single digits if there wasn't any cloud cover. Some places were around 0. Black River Falls dropped to 0, whereas here in Madison we were at 17. Milwaukee didn't drop below 24. Current temperatures are generally in the mid to upper 20s over southern Wisconsin. Notice those temperatures are actually slightly warmer to our south and to our west, so we actually may see our temperatures rise a little bit later on tonight as a front to our south gets close to the Wisconsin-Illinois state line. Upper level winds right now from west to east across southern Wisconsin. The storm system we're watching moving through the plains. Notice just a little wiggle in the jet stream that basically runs through the Dakotas back into the southwestern part of the country. The storm doesn't have a lot of moisture associated with it, but low pressure over northwestern Iowa will move eastward right along that stationary front that divides temperatures in the 40s and 50s to the south, the temperatures in the 20s and 30s to the north. But notice temperatures are not really cold no matter where you are. Future track shows the skies turning cloudy tonight. Again, that light snow, perhaps mixed with a little freezing rain tomorrow morning. That will move out tomorrow afternoon. So we'll see the clouds linger because the next weather system to our south and west will be already gathering strength and moving in here for late Thursday into Thursday night. Mainly a mix of rain and snow here late Thursday, perhaps mixed with a little freezing rain Thursday night into Friday morning before it comes to an end. But then that weather system heads off to the east, and we should be looking at quiet weather for the weekend into much of next week. So our forecast for tonight calls for that winter weather advisory late tonight into noon tomorrow. 27 temperature by morning, so our temperatures will go up a little bit. Light snow, perhaps a little light freezing rain late. Most of that will be in the morning, again up to an inch of snow accumulation. High temperature at 34. On future track, you can see that precipitation arriving late tonight and then moving out pretty quickly by tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures will drop off into the upper 20s tomorrow night, and then on Thursday look for high temperatures eventually getting up into the mid to upper 30s. As we look at the snowfall amounts, again around an inch through much of southern Wisconsin. 7 to 10 day forecast. Those temperatures slightly above normal. Average high temperature should be in the upper 20s to around 30. We'll be in the 30s with pretty quiet weather for much of next week, maybe a chance for some flurries Wednesday afternoon into Thursday. As we look at first alert traffic, have some slowdowns on the Beltline tonight. That's the view of Park Street and the Beltline. Traffic moving pretty slowly in both directions through that area. Eastbound delays start around Monona Drive, go back to west of Verona Road. Westbound delays start around around Todd Drive and head back to around John Nolan Drive. Right now, a 23-minute commute in the eastbound direction between University Avenue and the interstate, 22 minutes back in the westbound direction. Leaving Madison, heading southward on I-3990 from the Beltline, about a 27-minute commute to Janesville, 19 minutes to Sauk City on US 12 from Middleton, and a 21-minute commute to Sun Prairie on US 151. That's your first alert traffic.
All right, thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. Ahead on News 3 at 5, what a new study is saying about breast cancer and childbirth. We'll tell you the findings when we come back. A new study finds women may have a higher risk of getting breast cancer after giving birth compared to women who do not have children.
Hillary Lane reports from New York.
Women who have babies may face a greater risk of breast cancer compared to women who don't have children. Researchers from the University of North Carolina found the increased risk lasts for decades from the birth of the woman's last child.
It's highest 5 years after the child is born, and it continues to 24 years, and then it starts to fall.
34 years after childbirth, the risk of breast cancer actually goes down 23% for women who've given birth. Doctors say that's an important point since most breast cancers happen in women over age 60.
So if you look cumulatively, it decreases the risk because breast cancer is relatively rare in young women.
The study also found the increased risk of breast cancer after childbirth was higher for women who were older when they had their first child, for women who also had a family history of the disease, and for women who had a higher number of births.
This does change our screening criteria. And now we're going to ask, when was your last child, when we determine your risk to determine if you should be screened or not.
Researchers say breastfeeding did not impact the results either way. Hillary Lane, CBS News.
Health experts don't know why the risk goes up for 24 years after childbirth, but they think the estrogen surge during pregnancy may be a factor.
And stay with us with that weather system heading our way. We'll have another check of your forecast in just a moment.
Watching the weather for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, things pretty quiet right now, but late tonight, tomorrow morning, possibility for some light snow.
maybe up to an inch of accumulation. That doesn't sound like much, but there's also potential for some freezing rain to mix in or some freezing drizzle, and that could lead to slippery travel conditions. There are winter weather advisories in effect for all of southern Wisconsin, beginning at 3 a.m. for Dane County and areas to the south and west, areas to the north and east, Columbia, Dodge, Jefferson counties. It starts at 6 a.m. Both areas runs until noon tomorrow. After that, another chance for some light rain or snow late Thursday, maybe a little light freezing rain Thursday night, ending early on Friday, and then pretty quiet through much of next week, which is the full week before Christmas.
Yeah,
good timing for it.
More updates in a half hour on News 3 at 6. Stay tuned for the CBS Evening News.